It said immigrant and native born workers generally bring different skill sets, and listen to this. These skill sets complement each other in the labor market rather than competing for the exact same jobs. Now, critics of the H1-B visa system claim wages of H1-B visa holders being much lower. This drags down the wages of the others. And this is a big myth, says the American Immigration Council. Take a look at these statistics. In 2021, the median wage, the average wage of an H1-B worker was about $108,000 compared to only $45,000, $45,760 to be precise, for US workers in general. And between 2021 and 2023, the median wages of H1-B workers grew by 52%. During the same period, the median wages of all US workers grew only 39%. Despite what the data reflects, Donald Trump is trying to portray that he is protecting American jobs and wages and pushing for merit systems to attract the top talent, mind you, the best and the top only, instead of a lottery system. And if these proposals come through, then for Indian firms it would mean project delays. For Indian firms it would mean costs shooting up by 20 to 30%. And for Indian families, $32 billion in remittances from the United States at risk. For Indian workers, the American dream seems to be slipping away. And let's not forget that this visa war coincides with the terrifying times we live in. Tariffs on Indian goods, tariffs for buying Russian oil, over 50% tariffs slapped on India, the highest on any major economy so far. And now, a visa squeeze that we're looking at. Donald Trump calls it visa wisdom. Well, it's a visa squeeze that we're feeling here, right when India resists the US pressure. Perhaps a bargaining chip. That's what we're trying to decode. So the big questions that we're asking tonight: is Donald Trump weaponizing immigration to soften India's stance on this trade war? And what does it mean for those aspiring to live the American dream? To speak more on this, joining me here on the broadcast, Surinder Singh Lalli, advisor to H1-B, Government of India and Foreign Affairs expert with a keen focus on United States and Canada. Ujjal Singh Bhatia, former Indian ambassador to WTO. Very warm welcome to you. Nirmal Abraham, international affairs expert. Always a pleasure to have you with us here on News 9. And Dr. Sharad Kohli, senior economist and founder, KCC Group. Ms. Lalli, let me come to you real quick. Let's get this snowball rolling, essentially. Many young Indians, they spent lakhs of rupees taking student loans on United States' degrees and banking on this H1-B visa. What's going to change? With Donald Trump's wage-based model, the lottery system now going outside the window, do you see this becoming a risky bet for all those youngsters who aspire to live the American dream?
It's such a pleasure and honor for me to be here. I'm going to say this with a lot of responsibility. It's going to be America's loss. You might want to understand that America was built on immigrants and intellectual property. And we have played a very big role. America. I mean, talking about Boeing, Silicon Valley, the curves. So I feel in the Trump out with the
well, yeah, exactly. That's what I was told. Ms. Lalli, I think I'm going to ask the control room to quickly fix your audio. I think the guests are also having a little bit of a hard time understanding what you're essentially saying. Let me take this question to Mr. Ujjal Singh Bhatia, a former Indian ambassador to WTO. Mr. Bhatia, if you've heard that question, how about you take your opinion on that? Do you view the H1-B, this entire shakeup, as purely an immigration reform, or is this also a pressure tactic linked to the tariffs and the United States' India trade negotiations that we're constantly reading headlines on?
I think it's part of the larger America First doctrine of the Trump administration, rather than a mechanism designed to put pressure on Indian negotiators for the trade deal which is being negotiated. And let me also say that for all sovereign countries, it is their right to determine the terms and conditions on which foreigners can enter their country. So I think we should have nothing to say about the kind of conditions that they impose on H1-B visas or any other kind of visas. What should concern us is the impact of the proposed changes on the Indian economy, on the American economy. And I think as far as the American economy is concerned, there are ample studies within America to demonstrate that tightening up such visa regimes for skilled workers only promotes outsourcing and offshoring. That has been the record in the past several years. As of now, there are something like maybe 400,000 Indian workers on H1-B visas in the United States. Now, obviously, if the system is changed from the lottery-based system to a wages-based system, there will be repercussions. But I think in the larger medium-term context, perhaps the implication is that more and more American companies will be encouraged to get into outsourcing rather than getting H1B visitors from India or any other country. And I think in that context, we need to look at our experience with global capability centers in India. There are something like 100 of them in India. More than two-thirds of them are operated by American companies. They hire about 2 million Indians. And I think that is the larger picture that should concern us, that these are the centers which are actually innovation hubs rather than just back office operations. So I don't think we should be, I think there will be obviously disruption in the short term, but in the longer term, I think there is nothing that we should be worried about.
So in the longer run, there's nothing that we should be worried about, and this seems to be part of the larger rubric of making America great again. Nirmal Abraham, international affairs expert. Nirmal, help the viewers understand. The former ambassador to WTO, he pointed out that there are going to be disruptions and repercussions. What are going to be some of the first few repercussions that we actually see? We will talk about how India can now actually look at outreaching and outsourcing that ambassador himself spoke about. But the first few repercussions, what are they going to look like and feel like?
Well, in terms of H1B visas, I'm not sure how America can actually go ahead with the plan, especially in the long run, because if you look at the applications, as you rightly said in the introduction, nearly 75% are Indians.
Yep.
Who comes next? China comes next. What percent do they hold? 13%. All the other countries share maybe 1 to 2% each. So the question is, when you remove all Indians, and I don't think it's specifically targeted towards Indians, we just happen to be caught in the crossfire. Who is going to replace is one question. Two, I can tell you that the immediate effect of it may not necessarily be on H1B visas, but on other green card holders or prospective holders. So, for instance, if I am in the US and I want to bring my parents, which a lot of Indians do, I don't think that'll be a possibility in the near future. If Trump goes ahead with this immigration policy, I may not be able to bring my parents. I may not be able to ask my sibling to apply so that he can reach the US in 10 years' time. I may not be able to ask my 22-year-old son to apply and come on the basis that I am there as a citizen. All those kind of things may be limited. But as far as H1B visas are concerned, America operates on largely, nearly 65,000 Indians go there every year based on the lottery system. But if the lottery system is changed from pure luck to, say, wage-based or qualification-based, a lot of people might get caught in the crossfire. And I don't think it's specific, as I said, not targeted towards India. Anybody who applies, be it Indians, Chinese, Russian, people from Canada, Mexico, they will all have the effect of it, because now the selection process changes from a lottery system to a wage-based system. So that's the only concern that I have. There are many other concerns if you take out H1B visas, but I'm assuming you're only asking me about H1B visas. There are so many other visas, even green card holders, that could be affected if we are going to have to, have a discussion about, say, things like denaturalization, because Trump has emphasized on denaturalization. It hasn't really happened on a large scale in the past, at least in the recent past in the US. But if it happens, green card holders who are already citizens, especially immigrants, may be affected if they do a social media vetting, if they've been involved in a crime, which may not be a huge crime. These people might get affected, might even, their green card status might even be revoked. So there are other troubles, but specifically speaking on H1B, I don't think it is a functional model for the US going forward in the long run.
But Nirmal, if you could help the viewers understand what the Indian diaspora over there must be feeling like right now. There are so many who are, expecting the green card to come any minute now. Earlier that ombudsman was also shut down as soon as Donald Trump took office. So the uncertainty that looms large, how are they feeling? How are they going through it?
Well, very upset, disappointed, and I don't think they are very hopeful either because, number one, there are already about, I think, 1.2 million pending applications. And as you rightly said, Trump, when he took office, he removed a lot of people from office, meaning people in the administrative part of the offices, which means that the process will again be slower. So yeah, I mean, in terms of applications getting approved, I don't think the delay, there's not going to be a change in the delay. It will be further delayed. So Indians should not be hopeful, especially, if you're not H1-B visa holders or L1 holders. You should not be hopeful, especially if you're, say, siblings or parents waiting to go meet your family and stay there for a long run. They could be affected. The delay is there to stay.
All right, pertinent points. Dr. Sharad Kohli, senior economist and founder, KCC Group, also with us on the broadcast. What diplomatic levers, Dr. Kohli, does India now have at its disposal, realistically, to protect the talent pool that we are, of course, very proud of, but we also need to make sure that we don't strain ties to a point of no return with Washington? So how do we go about this balancing act?
Well, good evening, Kabir, and good evening to my fellow panelists and News 9 viewers. I think whatever is happening right now is defying the principles of diplomacy. We all know that, the language being used, India being called a dead economy, India responsible for murders or the deaths happening in Ukraine and so on and so forth. I think it is just defying the rules of diplomacy. And considering that India is a natural ally to the US, for decades now, one is the largest democracy, one is the oldest democracy. So as far as diplomatic leverage is concerned, I think President Trump will have to turn around himself. He's known for flip-flops. He's a different person in the morning. He can be a different person in the afternoon. He can be a different person in the evening and the following morning. So it's very hard to predict. The most unpredictable, I would say, head of the state at this point of time. As we have been witnessing ever since he has assumed office, making statements here and there and then doing things and taking decisions in a hurry and then going back on them. So we'll have to wait for him to turn around. As for the Indians over there, there are about 6 million Indians, as the previous panelist said, 1.2 million pending applications. And this whole H1-B menace, which America is trying to create as for now. Well, by the way, I must qualify my statement by saying that when we say America, I would specifically like to restrain my statement to White House because the rest of America is not supporting what is happening. So it probably even the Republicans within the party are not supporting what's happening over there. So when we use the term America, it may not necessarily be the voice of America per se, because I've heard a lot of citizens being against the whatever is happening at the geo-economic level. And
no, you're right. Let's start with Elon Musk. I think he was the first person to come against the H1-B changes.
Exactly. And, with regard to H1-B changes, I can explain to you in business and economic terms because I understand how the businesses are run there. I have a startup division of my own which mentors over 200 startups in America and the Silicon Valley. Well, the perception is that if we take out Indians from America, I mean, if what President Trump probably wishes for is to probably have groomed the local talent, making America great again. In the process, you're trying to make America recessionary again. The GDP growth is barely above. In fact, it's negative as of now, as we talk now. I'm waiting for the next quarter numbers going to be negative. But then he's trying to make it great again. Well, if you take out Indians from there, the bottom lines of most of the companies in America is going to fall because the cost savings, although you in your initial package, you did give the numbers of the difference in the wages. There isn't much difference in the wages as far as H1-B is concerned. But the cost savings, which the Indians and the Indian talent pool is right now, I would say, gifting to the American companies is unimaginable. I mean, I've got dozens of examples in front of me where the Indian professionals have made American American company bottom lines very, very profitable. So the entire tech sector right now is directly or indirectly controlled by Indians. So if he wants to shunt out Indians from there, or if he wants to stop Indians from coming there, then my question to Mr. Donald Trump is, does he have alternate American pool? And you will be surprised. The answer to this question is no. There is no American pool who can replace these brilliant Indian minds there. So what are the companies going to do? Well, this is exactly the same way as he wants to bring manufacturing into the US and levy tariffs so that the factories can come back to US. Little does he know that 1 acre of land in the US right now costs you 1.5 to 2 crores an acre across the average cost across the US. 1 hour of labor in US, skilled labor I'm referring to, because he wants Tim Cook to start manufacturing iPhones there. Well, I have a cost sheet in front of me. $3,000 is the cost of iPhone, which is going to be, because $40 per hour is the average rate of skilled labor in America. So he is wishing for unrealistic things which are not going to happen, and he wants that overnight as well. By the way, he doesn't just wish for impossible; he wishes for impossible to happen overnight. This is not going to happen. America has moved far, far away. I think
for the US president,
the apples have fallen far away from the tree now. It's not possible for either manufacturing to come back to US. It's not possible for American talent pool to replace the H1-B talent pool, for which we have the 70% share in America, Kabir.
No, you're absolutely right. You've raised pertinent points, operative portions, key portions. We'll definitely chunk those out for social media later. But Ms. Lalli back with us on the broadcast. Ms. Lalli, look at what Dr. Kohli said. For Donald Trump to call us a dead economy and then have 70% of their H1B visas go to Indian skilled labor, I mean, those are two different dichotomical statements that have come to light. But, as an education and HRD voice yourself, with a keen focus on United States and Canada, should India now reorient its higher education system so that our talent doesn't only depend on the United States and the Ivy Leagues and those top shot colleges? Maybe we can, redirect our approach. Just today, India has decided to at least shift their focus to 40 different countries when it comes to sustainable and renewable, textile exports. The same can be done for education.
Thank you, Kabir. Kabir, let me take this from the top. Donald Trump is not a politician. With 6 bankruptcies and 2 impeachments, I don't think he understands politics. I mean, there can be various reasons, an anti-incumbency being one, and the Democrats not doing good. He's there, but one doesn't need to be a rocket scientist, and I think Mr. Kohli made a very right point. You don't need to be a rocket scientist to know that you cannot replace Indians. I mean, 70% of the H1B is occupied by India. That itself explains it. I mean, and my pointed question is, how about STEM? I've lived in the US for a long time, and I don't understand people coming up. There is enough talent pool in STEM, and by STEM I mean science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. With due respect to a lot of friends and family that I may have, half of them wouldn't even understand what all of this is all about. So Indians are indispensable. I'm sorry to be making such a sweeping remark, because where else can you find such fantastic immigrants who, the moment they land into a country, irrespective of their immigration status, are productive to the society? I mean, there was a stand-up Mexican comedian, and I'd gone to see his comedy in America, and this is what Indians are all about. This is the perception that he says that, 2 Indians decided to rob a bank. So when they walked into the bank with the gun and they said, we're here to rob, and the manager says, oh, no, you are from tech support. They said, no, my name is Rajiv, I'm here to rob the bank. They said, no, that's the computer. And they hand him the computer, and he goes back into the car with the computer, and his other accomplice says, why didn't you rob the bank? He said, they didn't take me seriously because they thought I'm from technology. So Donald Trump is a mercantilist who's lived in New York City, and it's all about fast food. He says something else in the morning, he says something else in the evening. Yes, pani rasta dhundega, we'll find our way, but the biggest damage he's doing to the United States, which has purely built itself on intellectual property. If you look at it, I mean, can you imagine America making a Happy Meal toy? Or can you imagine America making toilet paper? They were smart enough to go into making drones, which is 300 million a piece. And now to expect suddenly that, you want to do that 60s America, which was in a Levi's commercial, the gene that built America, that ain't happening. I mean, he's going to do the biggest damage to the United States, the biggest disservice, because our intellect will find a way. Yes, one thing I must say, that America has been an extremely organized economy. So especially when you get into business, you can meet somebody who might have 600 stores or 1,000 stores or 1,500 franchises. That might not happen with us when we go to other places in the world, because The United States of America is the United States of America. I mean, I remember in my first year of college, I learned that Mercedes sells more Mercedes just in the United States than they sell in the entire world. And I can say that for every possible brand which is on American soil. So it's not going to be easy, but the talent is ours. And if we don't find people, people will find our talent. So we don't need to worry. And I think the way he's going out, hiring and firing people, even the federal bank chief, I think he's going to go lame duck pretty soon in the midterm. So I don't think he's going to be there for very long. Effectively.
What I'm understanding is that in the long term, Donald Trump's moves seem to be hurting United States' very stable economy. Mr. Ujjwal Singh Bhatia, former Indian ambassador to WTO. Mr. Bhatia, let me ask you, everybody's spoken about how the Indians and the skilled Indian labor there seems to be irreplaceable. You earlier mentioned that this is purely about Donald Trump's America First optics. I'm here asking and understanding, is this merely political optics or is there genuine economic concern behind it? And is this the right way to deal with it? Because you yourself pointed out there's going to be a lot of offshoring that's going to happen, but can the Indians actually be replaced over there? In the larger and the longer run, isn't that going to end up hurting the United States?
Let me make a couple of points first before I respond to your question. Firstly, in this program, we've heard repeated mentions of things like green cards and gold cards. I think it's important to draw a distinction between H1-B visas, which are not related to migration at all. They are short-term visas for skilled professionals to do something and come back. And then there are these green cards and gold cards, which are related to immigration. And I think this is an important distinction. The other point I'd like to make is that every year India produces something like 2.5 million graduates, and this responds to Mr. Lalli's point, whereas United States produces only about 800,000. So the sheer number of STEM graduates, the sheer talent pool that we have in India is actually, as Dr. Kohli said, irreplaceable. The American economy would suffer enormously if it did not have the benefit of the talent pool that India provides to them through various sources. The third point I'd like to make is that I think Mr. Trump and all the panelists have said this, is certainly being very short-sighted when he thinks that these kind of policies will help the creation of jobs in America. Because the reduction of H1-B visas for Indians in America is actually going to lead to more and more American companies outsourcing their activities, strengthening their global capability centers in countries like India, and creating more and more Indian jobs. So I think this is a spectacular self-goal, and I'll leave it at that.
Yep, actually, that's the operative portion. It is a self-goal because the idea is that it seems like when the numbers are stacked in our favor, when history and legacy is stacked in our favor, why is the US administration looking down upon the Indian skilled labor? It looks like they're trying to push us off as, cheap labor coming from India, which is not necessarily the case. My final question to Nirmal Abraham, and then we're going to wrap this up. A riveting discussion that it's been. Dr. Kohli made some fantastic points. So did the ambassador, and Mr. Lalli, always a pleasure to have you with us here. But, is the United States now risking alienating India's tech ecosystem at a time when, amidst these terrifying times, Nirmal, it's also important for the United States to keep their ties quite strong with New Delhi, isn't it? I mean, don't they risk alienating our tech experts?
Absolutely, and which is why I think it's a wrong decision by Trump. If if at all he moves forward with this, because he says things and he does not end up doing things, so we're not really sure.
Well, he said 25% tariff, he did it. He said additional 25% tariff, he's done that as well.
Yeah, those have been negotiation tactics. As far as H1-B visas are concerned, I don't think they can implement it. As all the panelists have mentioned, in the long run, it won't work for them. And yes, you're right. I mean, at a time where they are trying to grow. There's China on one end, there's Russia at the other end, and there's China and Russia helping North Korea and Iran at the other end. They would want India, at least in the Asia Pacific, especially to neutralize China. But I don't know why Trump is doing this. It's a diplomatic mistake. It's a strategic mistake as well. However, just judging from what Trump has done in the past as well, I do believe that these are all negotiation tactics, and he will end up being in the table, or he would want us in the table, eventually settling on something which is slightly favorable to the United States. So I don't think it's going to work in the long run, H1-B visas. But all the other political aspects that you mentioned, like social media vetting, crime vetting, all of those things are going to stay, because that's what he promised his voters. And as the ambassador rightly pointed out, they have he has the prerogative to do that as well, being the president of that country, and the promise that they gave to his citizens.
Well, Surinder Singh Lalli, Ojjal Singh Bhatia, Nirmal Ibrahim and Dr. Sharad Kohli, many thanks for watching in your interest, and we leave you with this thought tonight. Tariffs may come and go, trade wars may flare and fade, but when immigration itself becomes a weapon, it strikes at the very heart of India's global aspirations, and that might not be rubbing the Indian tech-skilled labor the right way. A question that the Republican administration now needs to ponder upon. Many thanks for watching in your interest. Top developments right on the other side.
Go condoms?
It's over there.
क्या ये different sizes में आता है?
Actually, sir, size matter नहीं करता.
तो फिर क्या matter करता है?
The hardness
Of the condom.
of what's inside.
For the first time ever, presenting Hard Rock Gel.
अब free हर score condoms के 10 pack के साथ.
Chandigarh, Coimbatore, NCR and Bengaluru, Jaipur, Ahmedabad, Raipur and Hyderabad. We've been here, we've been there. Veka's been just everywhere.
आम पेन रिलीवर एरोसोल स्प्रेस में है, दवा के साथ हवा, मगर डायनापार QPS प्लस में है सिर्फ दवा ही दवा, इसलिए डायनापार QPS प्लस चले ज्यादा। डायनापार QPS प्लस सिर्फ 91 रुपए में, लगा के देखो मान जाओगे।
पेंटिंग में पहली बार बिरला ओपस अश्योरेंस, 1 साल में पेंट को कुछ भी हुआ तो पेंटिंग वापस करके देंगे। रजिस्टर करो birlaopus.com पर।
This is India's #1 news network, and you're watching News 9, English news as it should be.
All right, then, shifting our focus here, India is gearing up for a global textiles push. That's right, facing a steep 50% tariff from